Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton,
I'm Bob Scarborough.
and we are the FAIRtax Guys coming to you actually recorded. This was recorded a couple of weeks ahead of time, but the comments that on the Facebook page as this is streaming are live. And hopefully, with I'm usually there. Sometimes there's some things that happen that I can't like that, but usually we're there. So if you got a question or a comment or about something we're talking about, please feel free to have at it in the comments, and we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And we appreciate everybody out there being a part of the program and also part of the fair tax movement. As we said last week in our episode, be sure to get engaged with your friends and neighbors, family members, to get a conversation going if they're not already going, and also on social media too, because there's a considerable amount of activity there in terms of the government and looking at the inefficiencies or how we can be better at spending or running the government from the inside. It's really quite exciting. It's from a personal standpoint to see how much we can get out of the dollars that we send to Washington every
Yeah,
year.
there has never been an idea like this presidential advisory committee that President-elect Trump has set up with Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk to search out, seek and destroy, if you will, the inefficiency and waste in government. Of course, they're not going to have any particular power to actually implement their things. They can just take a gigantic searchlight of truth and shine it on billions upon billions upon billions. And the reason the Congress critters get away with wasting so much of our money is because we don't really realize they're doing it. They don't. And so hopefully when more people are aware of exactly what the government is spending, I'm really excited about what this commission is probably going to uncover. And especially I'm really excited because they do indeed have the tax code in their crosshairs. They're going to be looking at the Internal Revenue Service, the tax code, and all that stuff. As a matter of fact, later on in today's program, we're going to dig into a GAO, Government Accounting Office report that came out in 1993, just detailing some really unbelievable stuff that's going on inside the IRS. And the funny thing is, you go, well, that report's that old. Well, the thing is, it's that old. That means they've known about these problems for 20 years and they haven't done a doggone thing about them. Actually, 30 years, but that's neither here nor there. But we will start, with, again, our famous Congress.gov segment here on FAIRtax Power Radio, where we start to go to Congress.gov, put the words Internal Revenue Code in quotes at the top of the search bar, select just current legislation in the current Congress. And as of the day we're reporting this, 2,109 hits on that search. Of course, we're just about at the end of this congressional session, and that's about par for the course. We've noticed in past years, by the time the 2-year congressional session ends, there usually is 2,000 plus hits on that search, bringing back changes that the Congress critters are proposing to the tax code, 99.44% of which are at the behest of a lobbyist somewhere trying to buy some kind of favorable tax treatment. So let's get right into it. And we will start off today with HR 10182. 10182. This is from Josh Gottenheimer in New Jersey. Here we go. To amend the Internal Revenue Code to waive the 10% additional tax on early distributions from qualified retirement plans in the case of withdrawals for family caregiving expenses. So now they're going to let you withdraw from your tax-deferred retirement plan if you have expenses related to family caregiving. That's if this bill, HR 10182, is passed by Congress and signed by the president.
I think that's, you know where we're going. We're going to say, why? Let's get rid of the tax code. But that seems to be a reasonable credit, wouldn't you think?
I would think so. But the bigger point is, why do you need a tax-deferred retirement plan or a tax-deferred college tuition plan, a tax-deferred plan of anything? Why don't you just get rid of all of the taxes on income then you can keep 100% of what you make, and then you can save what you want in just a regular savings account. That there was no such a thing as pre-tax and after-tax dollars if you get rid of the income taxation and start taxing consumption like they do with the fair tax. The fair tax eliminates the need to have this kind of stuff, which just we mentioned last week about how incredibly complicated the tax code is. And it gets worse and worse and worse every year just because of stuff like that. Drives you nuts.
Yeah, well, that particular bill has pretty much bipartisan support from Republicans and Democrats to get done. The challenge is how many of these will actually become law and actually become part of the tax code.
Yeah, well, a lot of times the Congress critter gets paid by the lobbyists for just introducing the bill. Whether it passes or not is irrelevant in a lot of these cases. But let's go on. We got a couple of them here from Representative Stacey Plaskett. Is from VI. I'm guessing that means Virgin Islands, because Virginia is VA, but VI, Virgin Islands at large. So there's only one representative from there, and I'm assuming that's what that is. But this is a HR 10147. 10147. It has text in it that you can click into. And it says this is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to allow, oh, look at this, another tax credit to allow for credit against tax for employers of reservists. So if you're in the Army Reserve, Air Force Reserve, Navy Reserve, some kind of military reserve unit, and of course, you have a job in the civilian world. This bill wants to give your employer a tax credit for hiring you, which again sounds like a pretty nice thing to do. But why do you need tax credits again? If there's no tax on your income, this becomes unnecessary under the fair tax.
Yes. The Recruit Act of 2024 is a worthwhile bill to bring out. But again, the tax code is not necessarily the place to do it. It becomes, as we always say, you're slicing up that pie so critically to curry a benefit for one particular industry or a particular action. And so here we are with challenges every day. This particular bill was introduced in the middle of this month, and it has no co-sponsors as of yet.
Oh, mercy. And right under that, the same representative, Stacey Plaskett, has a similar bill in HR 10146, the Hire a Hero Act of 2024. You click down into the text of that one, and you will see that this is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to allow the work opportunity credit to small businesses, which hire individuals who are members of the Ready Reserve or National Guard and for other purposes. So that looks, strangely similar to the one we just talked about. But again, the need for all of that goes away when you stop taxing income and you start taxing consumption under the fair tax.
Sure, absolutely. And we know that with the $36 trillion in debt that we're facing as a country, where a considerable amount of our gross domestic product goes to paying interest on that. There's got to be a jumping off point, for lack of a better way to describe it, where we really start getting serious about how we handle collecting taxes, and then of course once the revenue's in there, what we need to be paying it on. And I think that we're heading in a pretty positive direction with regard to both.
Indeed. All right, now let's move on here. Now, generally, I like Senator Blackburn from Tennessee. She's one of the good folks up there, but I've got to call her out for this one. This is a S 5316 5316. The Tax Administration Simplification Act. Let that sink in. The Tax Administration Simplification Act. And that's another one of these cases where the name of the bill really doesn't necessarily correspond with what it does. You open it up and it says it's to amend the Internal Revenue Code to extend the period of time for making S corporation elections and for other purposes. But I tell you what, Senator Blackburn, let's pay attention here. If you really want to simplify the administration of our tax code, get rid of what we've got now, implement the fair tax, turn it all over to the states who are already doing it anyway in a much more efficient manner than the federal government is administering the income tax. So if you want to simplify tax administration, sign on to the fair tax. Senator Blackburn, I'm talking to you.
There you go. And hopefully she's listening.
Or somebody may bring it. Maybe they've got automated bots that just scan the entire internet, and if they find themselves being mentioned somewhere, that it comes to their attention. All right, one more quick one. This is from another well-known name, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky. This is S5297, the Health Savings Accounts for All Act of 2024. Click into the text on that one, and you see a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to increase the limitations on contributions to health savings accounts and for other purposes. Again, I will mention that if you just get rid of taxing income, there will be no need for tax-deferred health savings accounts, tax-deferred retirement accounts, tax-deferred, educational expense accounts. All of that goes away with the fair tax because there is, again, no such thing as a pre-tax and after-tax dollar. With the fair tax, your income is not taxed. You keep every dollar you got. You can save for retirement. You can save for education. You can save for health care, just in a regular savings account with no limitations on what you can do with your own money. Get rid of this junk and replace it with the fair tax, Senator Rand Paul.
That's all, and we hammer this home every week, and the challenges are many. And how many we're up to how many presentations this year so far? 2,000 and some change, I think, is what I heard you say.
Oh, you know the number of hits on the search when you put Internal Revenue Code in the search bar on Congress.gov, 2,109 hits as of the day we're recording this, which is November 29th. And this is going to play in mid-December. And if I can get a quick promotional item in here, we're 2 weeks away from going through the 2024 Tax Proposal Hall of Shame, and that'll be a good program. Check that out.
That'll be good. The FAIRtax guys are always keeping an eye on Congress.gov for you. And if you've got plenty of time like we do, you can jump right in there and see what we're talking about and how it actually works here in the 118th Congress, which is in the final days, actually.
Yes.
4 weeks of sessions, and lame duck sessions, by the way. So, we have a new administration coming in. There's a lot of anticipation, for some, positive, for some negative. We do know that what we're doing with HR 25, the Fair Tax Act, it's nonpartisan. It benefits everybody. All taxpayers benefit from the efforts of the volunteers at Americans for Fair Taxation.
Indeed, it does. We got to move on here. Our time's getting away from us. And as we were talking last week on the program about the Presidential Advisory Commission, the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, that President-elect Trump has put Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk in charge of, and that they are supposedly going after the tax code. Hopefully they will, no doubt they will find lots of abuse and lots of inefficiency there. But we dug up an article here real quick. Actually, two things we want to go through in the little less than 14 minutes we've got left. This is from taxrise.com. In full disclosure, this is a tax service that these are people that are looking to drum up business for people who need help with the tax system. But it's why is the IRS so inefficient? The IRS, like many other bureaucracies, is very inefficient. Well, of course they are, you say. Most Americans agree. It's common knowledge the IRS is not universally loved, but why are they so inefficient? The employees of the IRS is one thing. To reiterate, the IRS is a bureaucracy, highly specialized and difficult to navigate. It is filled with employees who don't fully understand every aspect of the organization, usually are only familiar with their own department and nothing else. So, just by design, the IRS is inefficient because there's just so much going on there, and nobody that works there understands it all. I imagine not even the commissioner understands it all.
Very, very possibly not. Plus, the outdated technology is there. The Internal Revenue Service. I would think that most government agencies are slow to adopt to new technology to get things done.
Yep.
They've got certain things. They are used to a process that's built into the technology that's being used, and it's difficult to turn a big ship like that.
Yeah, of course, just the sheer size, volume, complexity of the tax code. This article says the tax code is 74,954 pages long. Very few citizens have the time or ability to read through the entire thing and to properly comprehend it. I would say change that from very few to zero. To make matters worse, it's full of contradictions and provisions. We outlined a lot of them here on the program with the Congress.gov segment, but we've got about 11 and a half minutes left here. We've got to dig into this GAO article that we've been talking about. This was something that the General Accounting Office was somebody, a Congress critter of some kind, requested that the GAO look into waste and inefficiency
Yeah.
at the Internal Revenue Service. And again, this was dated April of 1993.
Yes.
And it just says that there's all kinds results in brief. Our review of reports and other documents reveal that many examples of waste and inefficiency, several of abuse or employee misconduct at the IRS. These examples are listed in Appendix I. We believe that many of the examples derive from the IRS's antiquated computer systems. You've referred to that a number of times. Fragmented organizational structure, we just touched on that, and inefficient work processes. Well, let's scroll on down to this Appendix I, and let's see. These are the examples of waste, inefficiency, and abuse. The first one, the IRS does not centralize information for its criminal investigations. Those are the IRS agents that carry guns. Information is kept in the case management and time reporting system in project files. Not all the information can be pulled from the project files, and often files cannot be found. The effect of that, taxpayers' rights are violated because the information on taxpayer accounts is maintained in an unpublished system, which could subject IRS to possible litigation. And I will add that it can be leaked, it can be stolen. There's all kinds of stuff that's going on there with the IRS. It's just insane. And again, this all goes away when we replace the income tax with the fair tax and turn over enforcement and administration of the tax code to the state revenue departments that are already doing it much, much, much more efficiently than the federal government is.
Now this review was back in 1993, so this next one is dated for sure because the IRS has progressed to online, submission of tax returns, et cetera. And there were two service centers reviewed for this report that has been sent to Congress. The candling process used to check envelope contents did not adequately ensure that all contents had been removed from envelopes before they were discarded.
Now, wait a minute. Are you telling me that somebody at the IRS physically holds up an envelope to a candle and looks through the light to see if there's anything in the envelope?
That's the process.
Is
Yeah.
that what that says?
The candling.
Oh, my word.
It's interesting that they would name it candling process because it shows how far back into time they had to go, probably before electricity. Internal audit found 45 documents in the 55,000 envelopes reviewed, including 11 checks. This sample represented about an hour's work from both centers during the filing season. So there were 55,000 envelopes. Uh, and there were 11 checks in those envelopes that were left in the envelopes. So the effect of this to the taxpayer is a potential exists for lost revenue of more than $71,000 in the sample, and additional costs to resolve taxpayer problems resulting from the IRS throwing out certain tax documents and checks.
Oh, mercy.
McFly,
Let's
McFly.
Oh, mercy. Number three, interest on certain taxpayer accounts must sometimes be manually calculated. Now, again, this is an old report, but I would imagine if I had to bet money on it, I would bet money that this is still the case because they are still dealing with a rather antiquated computer system. They supposedly are going to be trying to upgrade it. But processing these accounts, known as restricted interest accounts, it's fragmented among several service center units, branches, and divisions. In addition, interest charges were not being properly assessed. Instructions for handling these accounts and assessing interest are not contained in one handbook, and they vary in quality. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and it takes 8 hands to do all this. It goes away with a fair tax. Potential exists for inequitable treatment of taxpayers, additional costs incurred by other IRS functions to correct errors. Potential exists for lost revenue if interest assessments are undercharged. Again, these are official government GAO findings of their look into the IRS. It's fascinating.
I want to skip down to number 5 real quick and read.
Okay.
Contract administration controls need improvement in the automated data processing support services contract to ensure services are obtained at the most advantageous cost to the government and in accordance with acquisition regulations. And so basically, internal audit has found that the software used to evaluate contract cost proposals was used incorrectly, and that market surveys were not required for certain proposals. So the effect of that I would think, a negative way is the IRS's costs for automated data processing contracting support may be higher than necessary. In other words, they're spending more money than they really need to. Contract cost proposals were accepted for amounts higher than required in the contract. In other words, they were paying more than they actually had contracted. And the Internal Revenue Service inconsistently handled reimbursement of contractor travel costs and may have overpaid these costs. So nobody's paying attention. I think there's an economic review of that if you're spending your money, you're going to be more apt to spend it on something of quality. If you're spending your money on somebody else, you might not be quite as efficient. But if you're spending somebody else's money on something else, you're not going to be concerned about it at all. And that's what we're seeing. Revenues.
Absolutely. Let me skip down to number 7 here. Management of administrative mail failed to ensure that all discovered taxpayer remittances were properly deposited upon receipt. They got money and they didn't put it in the bank. In addition, discovered remittances were not kept in a secure place until they were deposited. There was no separation of duties among employees who opened and processed mail in the adjustments, correspondence, and collection branches. Many employees who opened and processed mail could also access and adjust taxpayer accounts through the integrated data retrieval system. So, wow, that gives you the potential for lost revenue from remittances not properly deposited. Potential exists for employee theft and abuse of taxpayer. Oh, wow. Do you think that people who work for the IRS might use confidential information to push a political? They wouldn't do that, would they? Oh. Additional taxpayer assistance required to resolve problems resulting from the IRS not crediting taxpayer accounts with checks or documents that were sent, and unnecessary or incorrect notices sent to taxpayers, and the interest penalty assessments erroneously applied to taxpayers. The IRS does not know what it's doing. I think we can make that blanket statement. And the GAO, again, this is 30 years ago from 1993, have found all these problems. And again, much more recent examples of these things prove that the IRS has really done next to nothing to fix problems they have known about for decades. We need to put the entire agency out of business, replace the income tax with the fair tax, and everything will be fat and happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What kind of time we got left? Got time for one more real quick one?
Yeah, we got about 3 minutes. We're good. Go for one more.
Okay, I'm skipping down to number 15 in Appendix 3.
Okay, go ahead.
The IRS's collection process is lengthy, antiquated, rigid, and inefficient. The first step of the process alone may take 6 months. By comparison, delinquencies in the private sector are usually resolved in 6 months. IRS also does not have enough information to allocate staff effectively, and its decentralized structure tends to blur lines of responsibility and accountability. And the effect of this is that these problems have undermined IRS's ability to collect unpaid taxes. So all across, it's rife with inefficiencies that are costing not only time, but literally billions of dollars is wasted in manners that would be better served people's time and our money better spent doing other things. Like
Indeed. Well, I sincerely hope that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy come to the conclusion that the IRS itself is broken beyond any ability to fix it. You need to get rid of the whole thing, replace the income tax with a fair tax, and that fixes everything. So again, this is an official GAO report. We're just scratched the surface on this thing. Imagine if you want to do an online search engine search on this thing. It is an April 1993 General Accounting Office document entitled "Examples of Waste and Efficiency in the IRS." Say it's 44 pages long. We've just scratched the surface here, and we found plenty of reason to replace the income tax with a fair tax. And so you'll just need to lean on your Congress critters and make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, we thank you for being a part of the team here on FAIRtax Power Radio. Get your congressmen and senators up to speed on the efficiencies within the fair tax, since they know that they're going to be under a microscope in the coming administration with regard by the taxpayers, by the voters, and not just within the confines of what we're working on, but all across the government.
Indeed. Well, I'm afraid that is going to wrap up this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. We have done run ourselves out of time again. Again, thank you for liking the video, sharing the video, telling family and friends about it. If you missed the stream on Facebook or the YouTube channel, the Your FAIRtax Guys YouTube channel, there's an archive there on the YouTube channel. We also put these things up on Rumble. If you'd like to go check that out, again, we certainly appreciate your interaction, your comments, and we will look forward to seeing you again here next week on FAIRtax Power Radio. Until we meet again, I'm Bob Paxton.
I'm Bob Scarborough.
We are the FAIRtax Guys, reminding you the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
we'll demand it.
So tell me, how could I pay less taxes?
Less?
Yeah, I'm trying to get ahead, so how can I pay less?
Well, I suppose you could pay less taxes by earning less money, or you could give to charity.
How is that going to help?
Actually, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but if you know the right people, okay, or if you have a really good lawyer, you can usually get around the big ones.
If I may, under the fair tax, to pay less taxes, you would simply consume less. You would control how much you pay and when you pay your taxes simply by choosing what you purchase and when you purchase something.
So I could stay focused and get ahead.
Exactly.